Hey, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. Today, we're going to be starting our first seminar with me with the topic of identifying research gap and questions. So, this is a very important starting point for doing any kind of research. And I think it's a good time to be discussing this early on when you start your master degree or PhD. So there are various ways to come up with your research gap and research questions. And when you search online, you will see various of this way, you know, um, one, two, three, four, five, identifying the research area, narrow down, identifying gap, focus, and then come up with your research questions. So all these things you can search online, and I would encourage you to do it. But what I want to do here is I want to share my own experience. It's the first time I'm doing this, so yeah, bear with me and share with you the way that works for me, right? So before we start, normally in the class, I would want to ask you to talk to your neighbor and share with your neighbor your research interest or what you do, right? So just imagine you have parents, your family coming to ask you, oh, what are you up to? Right? How would you answer them? Right? Think about it for a second, right? So I'm pretty sure that most of us will answer something like this along this line. I'm interested in new catalyst technologies. I develop new batteries. This is how most of us would answer, right? I develop new I improve catalyst selectivity. I study material X. I will apply AI to certain process, for example. But I would like to urge you that maybe this is not the right way to answer or to understand or to share with the people around you your research, because I believe that everything should start with why you do it, why this topic matter. And I would like to share with you this video. Last time I asked the another sec, and none of them have seen this video before, so I was quite surprised because this is quite a famous uh video by Simon Sinek. But let's give it a go. I hope you can hear the voice, but if not, just search online.
But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this: we make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user friendly. Want to buy one? Eh, And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we're better. And we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do.
Here's the reality. Your college degree took 4 years and hundreds.
You see how the good communicators start by telling the people why they do it, and people pay because of that. That's what Simon trying to say. And the same thing apply to research. If you write a paper and you start with, okay, uh I'm doing this, I'm doing that, this is the impact. It's very hard to grab the attention of the reader or the editor. And it's the same thing applying to your thesis. If you don't state your motivation very clearly, it is very hard to convince your reader why is this research important, right? So moving from here, I would try to encourage you to start thinking about why you do it. The reason can be simple, right? You can most of us now in chemical engineer, we are really a strong believer in global warming or how it affects our life, our climate, right? That could be your why you developing new batteries for that, why you developing new thermocatalysis for that in order to improve this part. So yeah, when try this at home, okay? When you go back home, you talk to your parents on the Zoom call or you meet them when they ask you, "Oh, what are you up to?" Try to tell them. And this could be one of your practice, right? Try to tell them the reason first before you start telling them how you do it and what you do. Okay? So I would like to start here and let me give you one of my personal experience. Right. So when I did my PhD, I in my university there was a formal dinner, a formal hall. So the university consists of different colleges, right? And each college they have their own students, right? So I was in Darwin College, and at the during the dinner time, the college usually organize like a formal hall, which looks like Harry Potter, where you have a long table and then you sit here and you will not know people on the left, on the right, and three of them on the opposite. So every dinner you get to talk to five new different people, right? Given that you don't go with your friends, let's say you just go alone, you will get to talk to five new people. And this is usually how the conversation go. Oh, what's your major? What's you up to? What are you into? Right? So if you talk to people and in the college, there are people from different background, different major, they will not understand if you go directly into the specifics. So this is where I practice, right? To tell my friends, someone whom I just know about what I'm into. So this is so I think this was a very good experience for me, and I learned that it is very important to when you have an idea, when when you are into or you're pursuing something, it's better to share rather than keeping everything to yourself. Because the more you share, the more polished your idea would be. And by talking to people, I believe that's one way to develop your ideas better. So yeah, try this at home or try this when you meet new people. Tell them what you do and why you do it. And this is just a general word from me, right? Most students start with what I can do, but strong research actually start with why does the problem matter? Why do you care? And why other people have to care? So think of this. And there are two keywords I would like to share with you. It's nothing relevant to the research, but it's just the two words that I learned recently, and I really like it. Right, one is raison d'être, this French word meaning that the reason for doing things, and there is also a comparable word in Japanese called ikigai. This is more common, and some book already describe this term. So you have to find your own raison d'être, and this would give you more energy to do to pursue your thing. It's not just, you come here just to get a degree, just to do this. You're doing research. You have to find this like motivation inside, so that you are motivated to keep doing it, to get to where you want it to be. Okay, so this is the outline of today's class. So with me, you will meet me 3 times. One is this class where we will discuss, the research gap, the research questions. And the second class, we will discuss the methodology, and how you put things together into a research proposal for your first year review, and for you to move on to the viva, to the thesis defense, right? So that's the second time. And the third time, I will talk about the importance of writing a good research notebook, right? And which is a very important part to conduct good research. You have to note down things to be able to recall and to share, and to make sure that the knowledge doesn't get lost. Right? I saw many people write a lot of their research on napkins, on tissue papers, and take photo of it. That's not the way we should be doing it. So I will discuss about these 3 things. And if you have any question, you can always get back to me, and I'm always available for everyone to come talk to me. Just email me first. Okay, so let's get to the topic, how to find out the relevant research gap. So we are talking about identifying the gap, right? There's no way around it. You have to read tons of paper, right? There are new research coming out every day, every minute, right? Each year there are more than, like, I don't know, 10,000 papers coming out from all around the world. More than 50% come from China and the rest of the world, right? You have to read research paper and identifying what is important, what is the gap, right? And after you read those papers, then you start to formulate or develop your hypothesis, right? And then the next part that is additional from other people's teaching, my own personal experience would be to talk to people, talk to your colleagues, talk to your supervisors. Don't think everything in your room and think that this is the best idea. Go talk to people, reflect your ideas. And after that, you come back to yourself and confirm that that research gap or research question that you have identified is good, is relevant. Okay, so of course, these days in the age of AI, I wouldn't be bold enough to tell you that, hey, don't use it. Just read the paper. I would definitely encourage you to use AI tool for the help. And before, you might have heard that, searching paper on AI, it sucks. It gives you false paper, false reference. It's getting better now. And I encourage you to try the new platform. Google just announced the AI search for their Google Scholar, and those suggestions turn out to be quite good, and not just only the open access paper, but also relevant, and also they have the information of non-open access paper, which generally has more higher quality. I wouldn't say that always higher quality, but generally. So I would encourage you to look into this new AI tool, right? To try. So my personal recommendation, step 0, start with one good paper. So this is just to get you started. We have to start small, right? If you said, oh, my supervisor gave me 10 paper to read, I cannot read it all. I think you should at least start with one good papers. And this can, well, it's mostly, if you go read Nature, Science paper, this paper discuss the bigger topic, bigger relevance, usually has a higher, broader impact. So if you read those paper with broader impact, you understand the field that you wanted to go in more broadly, and you kind of identify what area specifically you want to go into, or what are the missing gap that you would like to tackle. So I would encourage you to read those papers from Nature, from Science. The review paper is great because it helps you to identify the gap clearly, and most of the good review paper, not the review paper that just mentioned A did this, B did this, the review paper that share their own experience and share their research directions. Those review paper usually will help you to understand the field more and what are the gaps that you want to look into. So start with one good papers, right? You can ask your supervisor for that, or you can go onto the website and search for the paper that sounds interesting to you. Right. That's the 0 step, right? And step 1, you can ask ChatGPT, Gemini, or other AI to help find you more literature, right? After you start with 1, you can now go to 10, 20, and read those papers. Now, back then, you probably need 1 or 2 months to do this, but now it can be done in 1 day. This is great, right? You can ask them to summarize. I don't say that you have to believe them. You should believe them, but now they can make summary of, all the relevant paper and the key message, the key parameter, and those are the things that you need in your initial stage, right? To understand what is the gap. So I wouldn't say that, 200% completely believe in what AI generated, but these are a very good start, right? So you ask them to come up with literature and do some summary for you to get the good idea of each papers, and then you download the one that you find interesting, right? And then what I would do next is I would put into the platform called Notebook LM, but there are other platforms as well. But Notebook LM, what it does is you upload the PDF onto it, create like a notebook. You can upload 20 to 50, I believe, to it, and it will only take the information from that 50 paper that you uploaded. So it will not hallucinate. It will not go take the information from other places. So it will only read that 50 papers. And this help you to narrow down, right? You pick the good paper that you're interested, you put in the Notebook LM, you get them to help you to narrow down your search and your narrow down your hypothesis and questions. Right. These are some of the example of the prompt I would use for ChatGPT, right? For example, list the top 20 recent publication in the last 5 years most relevant to my initial research questions, right? And prioritize, I would put this one to prioritize high quality journal, clearly state each paper core contribution, method use, and key limitations. Yeah, briefly explain how each relate to research question that I have. Right, so this kind of prompt you can try it at home. It will help you to get the most relevant paper for your thesis development. When you read this paper, you can find a gap state very clearly, mostly in the introduction and in the abstract. This is my own paper. Right. If you read the abstract, which is the compressed version of the whole paper, you understand exactly what is the research questions, right? Let's say the synthesis of fuels using sunlight. So I'm talking about the solar energy conversion. It's a promising sustainable solution for chemical energy storage. Right? So this is a broader idea, broader of what this review paper will talk about. And the gap is already mentioned here, but the inefficient utilization of solar spectrum limits the commercial viability, right? And then we also go into the second gap, right? Apart from the fundamental improvement to the materials, the system can also be designed to improve solar energy utilization by integrating complementary technologies, right, that more efficiently utilize the solar spectrum. So we identified the gap that the solar energy is not being utilized properly, and there are some existing technologies that we see as a gap in the reviews that nobody has reviewed it. And here, then we go to here, we review the recent progress on emerging technologies, right? So we tell them now, okay, what we're going to be doing in this paper. So yeah, reading the abstract can tell you pretty much almost everything of the gap and what the paper will discuss about. So for the sake of coming up with your gap and so on, you might not need to read into the detail of how many efficiency percentage, what exactly they do, their methodology and so on. You might not need to go into that detail from the beginning, but you have that 20 paper that you already downloaded. So that's cool. That's okay. But I think the first step to identify the gap, just reading the abstract and what AI can summarize for you, I think that's good enough. And you will come up with, some hypothesis. And the next, after you understand the gap that you are into, now you want to go and develop your hypothesis, right? So hypothesis can be like in my case, for example, solar energy cannot be utilized properly because of the solar energy is a really broad spectrum. You have high energy, medium energy, the visible region, and the low energy, the infrared region. So there's no such system that can utilize the whole spectrum. So the gap that I'm interested in during my PhD was to develop a system that can utilize the whole spectrum. So that's the gap that I identified early on in my PhD. I think I discussed this during the interview with my previous supervisor, Professor Reisner, and he liked the idea. That's why he took me, right? So, and then my hypothesis was very simple, and at that time, even wrong when I did it in real world, it wasn't something like what I have proposed during my interview, but I told him that, why don't we take one system to utilize the higher energy portion of the solar light and then integrate it with another system that use medium energy and integrate it with another system that use the lowest energy and then combine them together to make sure that it utilizes the whole spectrum, right? That's my hypothesis at that time, right? So anyway, AI can help you to develop the hypothesis, and you can ask them to go deeper into that, 20 paper that you already identify. And these are some of the prompts that you may use to ask the AI. I suspect the following research gap in field XYZ. What are the 5 hypotheses that could explain why the gap exists remain unsolved, and what evidence from literature or experts should I check to test whether this is a real publishable research opportunities? right? So this, when you ask this kind of question into Notebook LM, they will look at the 20 or even more papers that you have put there, and they will start to go into detail and tell you, okay, what area might be interesting for you, right? And as I mentioned, you don't have to do this, but I think, as I mentioned to you again, it's better to talk to people. Most of us, we think that, have you ever had this experience when you have a great idea and you think, oh, somebody will copy it. I don't want to tell anyone. I want to keep that idea to myself and spend 10 years developing it. And then nobody cares about your idea. Nobody cares about what you have developed. That's where I talked to another professor the other day. He developed a robot, right? And at the end of his PhD, the professor asked him, "Oh, why don't you start a company?" Right? So he developed a robot that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 functionality, right? He think that this is a great robot. Everybody would buy it. Turn out only 3 companies bought it, and they didn't do anything with it. He couldn't sell even single one more, right? At the end, he went to one of those companies that bought his product, and he spent time working there to identify what they really need. And turned out of that 10 functionality that he developed for 3 years in the lab, they only need one. They want the robot to move smoothly and instantly with the with the command, right? So that is the only option, the only functionality that the company really wants. So he went back, and instead of spending 3 years, he spent 2 weeks to develop new robot, and the robot just fly off the shelf, right? Many people bought it, and he exit that company and come back to Thailand, right? This is a story of not anybody far from us, the dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Professor Vitaya, right? This is our dean, current dean. This is his own story. So yeah, I think it's good to talk to people, to understand, and to develop your idea with the feedback of people as like a feedback loop. So that's the key message I would like you to have from this class, right? Don't think that, oh, if I mention this to my friend, somebody will copy it, right? Idea is just 1%. 99% is execution, right? Do you believe that the idea you come up with, nobody else in the world already, haven't already thought of it? Okay, so once you talk to many people, you talk to your friends, family, your senior, then you come back to confirm your research gap, your research question, your research idea, and that's how you identify, what you're going to be doing. And I would like to mention here that most research gap are not missing papers. They mostly exist at the intersection of the field. I will, before I go into this, I would like to share another experience. Because I did my undergrad in Japan and I did my PhD in the UK, right? I would like to share with you what's the difference between these two countries. When I first arrived in Japan, when I first arrived in the lab, the professor asked me to read 20 papers, right? He sent me 20 papers. He said, okay, spend 2 weeks reading it and then identify what you can do, right? And what you can do better. So that's what his question to me was, right? When I went to the UK, opposite happened. He said, oh, I already know that you understand your field. So what I want you to do is develop something new concept, new idea. I don't care about the efficiencies. I don't care about the real world implications so much, but I want you to develop new idea, new techniques that will change the world. So that two contrasting way of thought, I don't say that which is right or which is wrong, and maybe because when I was in Japan, I was doing master degree. So master degree, the reason the master degree is thesis can be increment improvement from the existing literature. But for PhD, it has to be substantial improvement or substantial contribution to the field. So that could be the difference. But yeah, the two way of thinking is something I find very interesting, because in Japan, if you develop solar cells, let's say you improve the solar cell by 0.1%. Okay, it's great, let's publish it. But in the UK, when I was there in Cambridge, they asked me to develop something new, and people will continue working on what you publish and improve the performance. So just develop new concept. Okay, back to this statement again. Most research gaps are not missing paper. They exist at the intersection of the field. So this is also another pro tip that I would like to share with you, because most of us looking at the research in our own bubble, right? In the field of electrochemistry, in the field of computational chemistry, in the field of, process system. But actually, a lot of those questions or lots of those work might have already been done in the field that is nearby, right? Like electrochemistry, we often have a problem with catalyst degradation. But if you look at catalyst degradation in the corrosion science, in metallurgy, for example, they already studied long time ago. So yeah, proxy field is something quite interesting place to look at, and I would encourage you to think outside your field and looking at this intersection between the field, right? For example, water and food, or when you work on energy, you look at other nearby fuel as well, because water is used for making energy. 1 liter of biodiesel use, I think 2,000 liter of water. So those and water is scarce, right? Water, like not the seawater, but fresh water is not abundantly available everywhere in the world. So how can you produce energy from limited resource of water? That gap, a lot of gap lies in this intersection. And I would encourage you to, when you start developing idea, not just look in between inside your field, but look a bit outside in the proxy field or nearby field as well. So I give you my example, right? This is the work I did during my PhD, the final work, and this was what I proposed right before COVID, right? A friend of mine, Motia Rahman, he came to me and he said, "Oh, I'm from India, and in India we don't have a lot of, clean or fresh water. We also don't have seawater, right? So in many part of India." So he asked me, "Oh, can we actually make hydrogen? Hydrogen usually require fresh water, like reverse osmosis or very clean water, because the catalyst get deactivated with even a little bit of salt inside the water." So he asked me that question: how can we make hydrogen from unfiltered water, right? So I thought of, okay, so how we can do it. So this is what I came up with, right? So you see the solar spectrum that I talk about. This is high energy, medium energy, and low energy. you see that the high energy part can be used for making hydrogen. But the low energy part, like the thermal part, the heat part, can be used for different things. And one thing that it can be used for is the solar vapor generator. So you can imagine the black sponge floating on the surface of seawater, and then when you shine the sunlight, it vaporizes the water, right? So I thought, okay, can we combine these two things together? And I drew this schematic in 2019, right? We want to make a floating leaf, and we have some kind of like a layer in the bottom that is black. And then we have the photocatalyst that does the hydrogen production on top, right? And this like a leaf structure will help to repel the contaminant and at the same time vaporize the water into water vapor, which is clean, right? Ion free. And then the photocatalyst would then split that gas phase or vapor into hydrogen and oxygen. So I propose this and I get to pursue on this crazy idea after the COVID and get it published. So yeah, I just want to say here that yeah, many innovation, many interesting gap lie in this, in between the fields. So yeah, I would encourage you to start thinking outside the box, right? And few more thing I would like to mention that I think for master degree or PhD degree, especially PhD, publication should be set as a goal, right? Research does not end in experiment, it ends in new knowledge communicated, right? Either in the form of publication, book, patent, or a spin-off company. So when you do things, I would like you to find the relevant enough questions that people would be interested that you can publish, as a goal, because you will need this to graduate and you will need this for your future career, right? If you want to go into company, having papers is great. Showing that you know how to construct the idea, how to develop, the research methodology and to report. So when the company want to hire someone to do R&D, for example, they would definitely value those who has like prior existing papers, right? And especially if you want to go to academics, if you have a good number of paper, it's easier and it shows that you can be independent researchers. So yeah, I definitely want you to have that in mind. And in the next class, we will talk about the research methodology and how you develop your proposal that to make it more realistic, to make this goal more realistic, right? And we will discuss also how when you develop the research methodology, you should aim toward, to make sure that it is publishable, it is relevant enough to the field. Okay, so we will talk about that in the next class when we meet in person. Okay, two more slides that I would like to mention. One is I want you to think of the chemical engineers because we are in the university setting. It's safe space. So I would like you to think of our department as a safe playground, for bold ideas and a safe space for you to test them with rigor and responsibilities, right? I know that many of you has come here for different reasons, but I think university at the end is a place for you to test your idea, to develop new knowledge. And even if you fail, nobody would fire you, right? So you should be bold. You should try something new. You should do not fear, right? Yeah, that's what I would encourage you to have this in mind, right? It's a playground. It's a place where you can test your idea, just like I did. Okay, and key takeaway for our class today is know your why, right? Think from the above, think holistically to see the field from the broader perspective. Innovation often happen between the disciplines, as I mentioned, not inside them. Proxy field may already solve part of your problem, but in a different way, so you can adapt that to your field. The fourth one is be creative. I didn't mention this, but as you can see, I asked you to be bold and asked you to try new ideas. So try creative idea, right? A research question must lead to publishable on transferable of knowledge. And I think this is very important because if you do things for 2 years and at the end it cannot be published, the knowledge, just stop with you or maybe your thesis, and nobody can make use of it. You're wasting your time, right? So you should aim, right? I would encourage you to aim for at least, for master degree, one good publication. It doesn't have to happen right when you graduate. That might not have enough time, but usually, it can be published 1 year or 2 years after, after you graduate. That's fine too. So think about that. And for the next class, we will be, from today we learn about the gap, and next we will talk about the action plan, how to turn this gap into clear objective, and scope of your research, something feasible, and to create the impact and to draft, your thesis proposal, which end at the methodology, right? Okay. Because we do this online, I would like you to submit the exit ticket, and this will be deadline today, Monday, 4 p.m. So the class start at 12, right? You have 4 hours to look into this video, and after that, go to my course view and submit your exit ticket. I just want to simply ask you to try, put this into ChatGPT with your current research field and show and let them respond and copy the whole thing and put it in the exit ticket for me. I want to read what kind of research you're interested in and what kind of response the ChatGPT generated for you. So that's it for the attendance check for this class. Okay. I guess there's no Q&A, so let me end the class here. Thank you very much and see you next week.